All right, pick it up on that. The Vols get their win tonight, get their revenge. They won the game that mattered with Kentucky. And really, I'm saying this. I have to confess, I was going back and forth with the Michigan State Ole Miss battle and this Tennessee win over Kentucky. It seemed to me Tennessee just kept Kentucky at arm's length much of the night. That was my perception. How and why did they win the third matchup after losing the first two, Vince? What would you say?
Tennessee bossed this game. They did. They did from pretty much the jump. Kentucky barely led. Kentucky led for 32 seconds of the game. Once Tennessee got to double digits, they never looked back on Kentucky. There was times where Kentucky would have, up, a 4-point run or something like that. But that's kind of what I was referring to before. In the past, Tennessee was so defensive oriented that if they didn't get stops and their shots weren't falling, they didn't have a way to kind of stem the momentum coming from the other direction. Now they just run some action for Chaz Lanier, and he makes a smooth 2-point basket at the elbow or a three, or Ziegler drives and breaks down the defense. Right. But this Tennessee team isn't perfect, but they're playing their best basketball. Yes. Couple things were the difference. One was the way Tennessee defended the three for Kentucky. Kentucky was 12 of 24 in each of their first two meetings, 50%. Tennessee shot 22% from three in those first two meetings, but they took too many of them, and Tennessee wasn't baited into taking too many threes. They drove, they passed side to side. They used both sides of the floor. They spread Kentucky out. Ziegler, Gainey, Lanier, they were able to penetrate and not take too many three-pointers. Tennessee shot 5 of 19 three-pointers. Not a great percentage of them, but you know what? They made a whole bunch of twos, and they dominated in the paint. So that the offensive three-point, not taking too many, and then defending the three. Bray had one made three-pointer, and that was, I think, the very first one in the game for Kentucky. Nothing since. You know what happened? Jemai Mashak happened to him. And Jemai Mashak probably going to be the defensive player of the year. He should be. Him and Zakai Ziegler are both up for that. And Tennessee did one other thing defensively that really threw Kentucky off is we heard from the coaches and the players in the open locker room afterwards is they switched more defensively in this game than they did in previous meetings. And they didn't communicate when they switched last time. They switched this time, and it really threw Kentucky off.
I know you've got to go in a few minutes. I don't want you to miss everything. I don't want them to lock you in where you are and get lost. It's the middle of the night in Indianapolis. Again, Zakai Ziegler in the game, 18 points, 10 assists. Lanier also had 17 in the game. Jason, did you have another question about Tennessee and the win and maybe the matchup with Houston for Vince?
And just on the defensive end, only if I'm right on this, Vince, only 2 games all year Tennessee gave up 50% shooting was to Kentucky in the 2 games. I mean, just talk about, again, I think Barnes is we criticize Rick, but he is getting it together. He's got a veteran team. He got the floor general in Ziegler. Just talk about how important Ziegler is in getting the right guys the right shots.
Well, he's now the all-time SEC single-season assist leader. I mean, and he's 4 times on the all-defensive team. Defensive player of the year the last 2 years. It may go to Mashak this year. We'll see. But it's incredible to have 2 elite defenders for that Naismith Defensive Player of the Year. They have 2 of the 4 nationally on one team. So anyone else can talk about, we have a great defense too. To have individual defenders that can take guys out of a game like they can, and then they cover a lot of space whether they switch or get out to 3-point shooters, that they can cover a lot of space and they rebound. It's what they're doing. And look, the boards were a big part of this game. Tennessee out-rebounded Kentucky 34-24, and some of that was just some late rebounds for Kentucky to close that gap. How about 14-7 in offensive rebounds? So part of the defense is them when they're good on the glass and dialed in with the way they defend. They're tough to beat. But I think what's taken Jason, Tennessee to another level, and I saw you react to it when I mentioned it earlier, is they're playing their most efficient offense right now. And in the past, Rick Barnes' teams would be elite defensively, but then you'd look at their Ken Pom offensive efficiency. And, last year, I think they were like in the 50s or something like that. Before that, way behind that. And now they're top 20.
Right.
And they have a guy in Chaz Lanier that can break slumps for them and stem the momentum from opponents. So they're playing really good ball right now, and looking forward to Sunday, because this program has never made it to the Final Four. That's what's at stake. Wow. Meshack and Ziegler very motivated to get this team where the program has never been.